everybody. My name is Hero. I'll be moderating this panel this evening. And I'd like to invite writer-director Alex Russel and Zack.
Who's the fourth chair?
I don't know.
Yeah, is there supposed to be one more?
Oh, we said Kevin Gates was on here. That's why we don't have.
No, we can like bring up someone from the crowd.
I think that's it.
This is the last Q&A that we're doing in LA.
Yeah.
So we
It's
want
nice
to
to
get
see
Show of hands. Who thinks this movie has a happy ending? All right. Who thinks it has a tragic ending? Who doesn't know how to feel? That's
really good.
More than that, really get out of the audience.
We're just coming from another panel, so we're going to try to keep it interesting for us and not ask the same questions over and over again. But I will start by saying, Alex, great job.
Thank you.
I understand it's your first thing. It's so confident and precise, and it just feels so in control. It's infuriating, really.
That's very. What do you mean when you say confident?
It feels like you know exactly what you want to say, and say it very articulately.
I didn't feel confident.
Why do you say that?
Because I felt like this every moment. I was like, this could be a huge disaster. Like, why did I agree to this? I have now every day on set there'd be a scene where I was like, damn, when I was writing this, I didn't know I would have to answer for this. And I'm sure you know some of the scenes I'm talking about. I had to shoot all of those. And I had to tell like 50 people why we were doing that.
Zack, what scenes is he talking about?
Ooh, man, let's wrestle? Why? How about I fucking don't?
Actually, I have a short story about Let's Wrestle, which is that it was the one thing, I was doing revisions during prep, and just like, certain things would get smaller, certain things, just like stuff gets lost when you're doing a bunch of revisions by accident, and one day I got texts from both Teo and Archie individually, and they were like, we've never like brought up anything to you before, but like, what happened to that wrestling scene? Like, I really want to do it, and I had just accidentally like cut it off of a page, and it's just like a line that says like, and then they wrestle or whatever. But they were really excited about sort of like the physical acting of that scene. And I was like, I'll put it back in right now.
I said this to you before, but this is my favorite scene. For some reason, it's just like a perfect crystallization of that movie.
Well, it was the password actually for a long time for the Frame IO link.
Let's wrestle.
Yeah. I think actually when we submitted to Sundance, they like had to type that in.
Well, okay, when the actors asked you, did they ask you what that scene was? Like, what was the question? What were the questions you had to answer?
No, they totally understood what it was. They had better ideas for what it meant than I did. But I mean, the big thing with that scene is that the expectations of it are that it's either finally going to get sexual between the two of them, or it'll finally get violent between the two of them, and then it is the third thing of the wrestle, and it just made a lot of sense for Matthew's character, and it feels like his sort of infantile nature is coming out, and in a way, like what I love about that scene is how it ends, is that like you would think that Matthew would have him pinned, but it's actually that he manipulates the situation such that Oliver has him pinned at the end of the scene, but he's still the one laughing, having all of the power. Right. So he's on his back, and Oliver's the one stressed, but he's still on top. I think that's kind of how the movie ends in a way too.
You're so fucked up, Alex.
I really, dude, it's such a dream to hear you say it.
It's way to tell on yourself.
Yeah,
Just make a movie.
Totally, and I feel like that's, if anyone in here wants to make a movie, when you feel like you're telling on yourself a little bit, when you feel like you're a little bit ashamed of like what an audience might think of you when they watch your movie, and how they might interpret what kind of person you might be, but definitely aren't, and you're just an observer of human nature. That's when you know you're cooking.
You said that you're every character in this movie.
I didn't know I would have to.
Yeah, you're gonna have to elaborate.
I said that to you in confidence. What did I mean by that?
What do you mean by that?
I think I just had to find a way into each of the characters. So there's something I relate to in every character. Even Shai, the manager's character, it's like that's someone who understands what's going on and has the only like moral compass in the movie, and is the only one who at any point decides to exit the situation. Everyone else is in there for the long game.
Are you part of Zack's character as well?
Yeah, I mean, I had to get in that headspace for sure. I think, and that's sort of like everyone's been a little bit of a bully at some point, and I think sometimes you're on the inside of something, and sometimes you're on the outside, and you can feel when you're on either layer of that, and you can feel sometimes you want to impress a group of people, sometimes you're already in a group of people that you could tell someone wants to impress. So I think that's living on both layers of that, I think, is what allowed me to, even do that sort of subjectivity handoff going from Matthew to Oliver in the third act, like starting to end on Oliver's face in every scene, starting to feel like the horror movie of every time Matthew walks in the door.
Yeah.
It's like, like, whereas it's truly not the nature of the beginning of the movie. It's like the beginning, it's like you're feeling his desperation and you're feeling his intentionality with every little social interaction, kind of wanting him to win those little moments.
Zack, would you, I mean, you guys have known each other for a long time. When you read the first draft of this thing, what was your take?
This nigga's fucked up. I was like, damn. First part I said, God damn. Seek help. No, I'm playing. I was honestly blown away the first time I read the script because it was during the pandemic, and we were all on lockdown, and we were all just sort of like going off and doing our individual things. And I talked to Alex, and I was like, "What are you gonna do?" And he was like, "I'm gonna write this movie." And the way he posed it, he was like, "I kind of have all these scenes, and I have the idea in my head, and I'm just gonna string it out." And I smoked so much weed and watched The Wire in its entirety, and by the time I was done watching it, he had the first draft. And it was physically in my hand. He printed it out.
What's the time frame we're talking about?
I mean, weed time, the dilation, it could have been months, it could have been days, it could have been years.
It was 3 months. 3 months. And that was also like, that was when everyone was getting into baking and stuff like that. So this was just my version.
When you were much more productive than most people were.
Sure.
And you didn't know at the time that he had a role for you in the movie, because
No.
you didn't either.
No, when he sent it, it was purely just like, we're just friends. It's like, look what I did.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is mad impressive. Like,
Yeah.
damn, you did something really productive with your time, like me. And it was much later. I think it was the next year. And he was like, okay, I think I need to slide you in for Sweat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone might make this. Maybe we can get this to Hero Mirai or something.
Do you
But that is how aspirational it was. Like,
Yeah, it was so far-fetched at the time that like I would make a movie that even just the finishing of the screenplay that was the big achievement. That was the ceiling of my ambitions at the time.
Yeah.
He just came over, and I live in Mid City, so we like took a walk, and he was like, I want to just shoot test footage of you acting like Sweat to me from my POV.
Yeah.
And he just filmed me bullying him.
I want to be like the extras and stuff.
Yeah.
But I have all that.
But it's like it was that DIY.
Like improv-ing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think we had
some lines.
we had those
Sure.
yeah. But
What's the go-to thing to bully Alex?
Oh, in real life?
Yeah.
The way he walks.
yeah, this has come up in some other Q&As already.
Yeah.
But it's true.
The thing that I think is so impressive in this movie is like the tonal tightrope walk. Right? Like it's so funny, but it's under the guise of like a kind of pretty tense thriller too, right? And then there's also this, it depends on who you are, but I kind of think there's like a weird sort of romantic kind of intimacy that I think is like real. It's not just like a hostage situation. There's like something real there, right?
For sure.
So
we really dance around that word homoerotic.
I thought you were going to say gay.
Yeah.
We're dancing around that word gay. Hey, I think this movie dances around the word gay.
For sure.
For sure. Yeah.
Beautifully. Pirouettes.
Do you think male intimacy eventually distills to homoeroticism?
One nigga in the back. Oh.
Do you think it has with us?
There we go.
Honestly.
Do I think male intimacy distills to?
No, between us.
Between us.
Yeah. I don't think it's ever really. No, it's super straight.
So straight. Wow.
But we had to touch each other just now.
You know, to establish that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that
Last Q&A, but
that recording studio scene is so good, and it really acts as like a centerpiece for the whole movie. In my eyes, in my view, was that always kind of the intent? Was it scripted that way? Is that something that kind of shifted in the edit? Like, what was the structure of this movie for you?
that was the one scene that wasn't in the original script.
Oh,
It was
interesting.
just invented for the purposes of auditions. In
Really?
fact, yes. So it was something that my producers at the time, they were like, so for auditions, we want to create an original scene where it's really just the main characters going at each other for the first time. So like, and I remember I was turning in versions of the scene and they kept being like, more lacerating. Like that was the first time someone used the word lacerating.
Yeah.
I was like, more lacerating, okay.
I don't even know that's how you're supposed to use that word.
I just interpreted, and that's what it ended up being. And it functioned great as an audition scene. And it wasn't until years later that during prep, I was like, it is actually the centerpiece.
Yeah.
Let's put it in the movie. It'll fit perfectly right. Because it wasn't always in a recording studio, and it didn't always end with like, Oliver recording that song and Matthew, that sort of cutting moment of him like being like, let's start that over. Let's stop right there. That was all kind of came out of my envisioning the scene during prep. But it felt right. And I think that I sort of credit to how long it took the movie to get made. Is that I may have not have thought to do that unless it had just been sort of sitting off to the side for a couple of years,
That's interesting. It's kind of hard to picture the movie without it now.
It's way worse without it, I think.
Talk a little bit more about the audition process. How did the cast come to be?
Well, Theo's tape was the first I ever saw, by pure coincidence, and it was the tape by which I compared every other tape I saw after that, and then it was just the one. I remember seeing it because it was the first time anyone had ever taped for anything I'd ever done. So I was was watching it and I was like, if this is like the floor of what it's gonna be, like what are these other tapes gonna be?
Yeah.
And I watched all the other ones and I was like, well, I think it's just this one. And I was afraid because that was like a few years ago that some of these people would start to age out of the role. Like Matthew can't be 38, you know, right? That's
I mean, he can, but it's a
that's a
much
different
weirder story.
So even Zack, you know, Zack, we got a little older. So we're the same age, and we had to point it out in the movie. Like there's a point where Matthew's like, so how old are you? It's very brief, but it is kind of indicating that Zack is playing a character that's a little bit too old to be hanging out with them still. Sure. But that was not at the original script. Sure. So 3 years go by and we had to make a point of it.
Interesting.
And then Archie came a couple years later, and he, you know, he turned the character British. He was always written as an American artist, and then, can I say this? I'll just say that when I heard his first, you know, attempts at an American accent, I was like, we're gonna have to do some dialect coaching here, and let's just make the character British.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and that became much more exciting to me because, you know, the idea of this ensemble was like everyone is from somewhere. It's not the idea of like everyone's a homegrown LA person.
Yeah.
It's the more LA idea of everyone is from nowhere. Everyone is kind of just here in this vacuum hierarchy that they've made up. And here an alpha has emerged, and everyone wants his attention, and everyone is like, you see the gravity that they're all just tacitly agreeing to, you know. And I think the fact of Archie being British and being 6'5" and towering over everyone, it kind of just establishes that, you know, visually and sonically very early on that he is the distinct one.
Yeah. And he controls the room without doing a lot.
Yeah.
There's like a natural charisma that he's
Yeah, and that's important when you have all these other hyper charismatic actors, like especially Zack. Like, it's hard to not make him the star of the movie.
right.
So making Archie play this character where he's like looking on and he's controlling all of these other charismatic, you know, celestial bodies, like that was the challenge, I think. But with casting, it's like once you have a piece or once you have two pieces, it's like having the edges of the puzzle or having like the corners of the puzzle where you're like, okay, well, now I know that this piece has to be this shape.
Right.
Or whatever. It's like it starts to fall into place a little bit.
When you know, the thing that really strikes me about the movie is like it's so observant. Like it's you're really kind of honed in on very small moments with your characters, right? It's like when Maddie's getting, you know, when Jamie's getting all the credit at that party, and the camera just stays on Matthew, and he's like so wounded, but he's not saying anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think you have such a keen eye for like pettiness and like small wounds, you know? And I was curious how much of that was like you knew what you were looking for when you know, from the script stage, or how much of it you found in the edit? Like, did you know that you were gonna stay on that?
I was thinking, oh, well, that particular moment is a great sort of marriage of intention and constraints. In that, like that scene, which is an ensemble scene of everyone's like outside of the patio. You guys have seen these? Where, you know, Zack's character comes out and he's like, who the fuck is that? And it's Jamie, and it's like, oh, I actually like the sweater. And then Matthew's like, this is totally backfiring. And, you know, we're on his face for so long. Well, you have good actors who can do that. If you don't, you're fucked. And you can't, you just gotta cut around constantly. But that was a case of like, remember, it was very cold that night. It was nighttime, we only had a couple hours to shoot it. And, you know, if we had infinite time, you would just shoot that like a dinner scene where like you cover everyone's reactions, you cover everyone's lines individually with equal real estate. 2 hours. So we had to ask ourselves, what is this scene really truly about? It's not about everyone equally. It's about Matthew's reaction to the gravity of the ensemble shifting away from him. So the way that we shot it is we tag some of the guys coming out, and then we float and land on Matthew's face and stay there as this shift is happening. So as you start to get to the like, oh, where'd you get that sort? Like, can you make me one? Then it's like it's over, and it's all on Matthew's face. He knows he's lost it, and we're just hearing everyone laugh and joke and have a great time at this party, and it starts drowning out. It starts becoming this like cacophony nightmare that leads him into that car. Like, it's one of my favorite scenes is like he's like texting Jamie in the car, and the music's like so overwrought, and it's like the texts are like super like normal, trivial. They're like, hey, like it's cool that you like came today, but like maybe you don't need to come back tomorrow. And like
I feel that.
Yeah,
it's like a really intense.
But yeah, so that really came out of having to make time and resource-based decisions that would distill and crystallize what the scene was about. And I think it comes out more elegant if you have to do that. If you don't have the money and you don't have the time, what is this really about? It's about Matthew's face.
Right. Okay, but Zack, as someone who's also in that scene, how do you feel when Alex is like, I'm just gonna shoot Matthew's close up, and then you guys can just talk off screen?
Super excited. I mean, yeah, it was honestly just fun to participate in that sort of like, in that painting, you know? And be able to kind of be in a position where my job is a little bit easier. I'm just playing almost like a game of emotional battleship, you know what I mean? It's kind of just one side where now like the camera, I'm out of frame, so my whole body's relaxed. I'm not acting with my body anymore. I'm looking at Theo also.
You can turn up more.
And I can turn up more. I can say more to Sonny Soldier's character and see and just lob things and watch him just do incredible facial acting and recall emotions and see how it twists and see, oh, what if we compliment him this way? Or what if we tell him we're gonna take him to the diner after this? Or so it was just as fun as
oh my god, so that was so fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, all these actors were so generous, and these scenes are fun. You know, these scenes are like petty little performance, jokey things with full of improv. So everyone is trying to like hype each other up or like do something weird. And like something I remember about Archie that blew my mind was like, you know, in the photo studio scene, obviously he is one of the two leads in the movie, and we covered him last. So we did everyone else's. We did a whole day of this photo studio thing, and we covered Archie's character last, just because we had to. And I remember when he was off camera, he was like yelling at everyone. And what I realized he was doing was that he was trying to evoke like a fear in them, but he knew that like his actual performance on camera had to be more subtle. But he wanted everyone else to look more afraid of him in the scene when they were on camera. So he was like yelling at them off camera, as we were getting their reactions, and then we finally covered him, and then he dialed it all the way back.
Wow.
So everyone is thinking about everyone else's performances and reactions.
That's amazing. I mean,
That's really cool, right?
That's really amazing. I mean, is that something that you know? Did you rehearse a lot? Or like, was there a lot of prep time with the actors? Like, how well did the actors know each other before production?
No, I mean, there were little, like, Zack and Wale, you know, we've known each other for a long time, so their dynamic is well established. Teo and Archie had met briefly, like a year before, and hung out. And then on set, it was a very ensemble, family, hangout energy. Like, everyone was there when they didn't have to be.
Yeah.
You know, it's in LA, so you know, everyone was just around. In fact, we had too many other people hanging out. It was a problem. Someone had to sit me down and be like, why are like 8 of your friends
Right.
looking at the monitor? Like they could be in village.
Yeah.
They're looking at your monitor.
That's great though. That's kind of how it should be, really.
It was really fun, yeah.
We're gonna turn this around real quick on you guys. What do you think is the takeaway of this movie?
Yeah, what do you guys feel about the ending?
Right there.
I actually have a question, and I
Okay.
think it goes to the ending. So my favorite part of the film is the studio session, and where Matthew tells Oliver, everybody wants the same thing as me, but I get it because I'm better. And we know this is the case because at the end of the film, he's on stage with Oliver, and everybody else is in the crowd. So many people move to LA to be directors, to get into Sundance, to get their film released, and you actually did it. Do you believe the reason why you're here today is because you were better?
You are good. So we were gonna take interpretations of the ending. No, I don't. No, I think I got lucky.